Good morning. My name is Dina Lehman-Kim, and I am very pleased to have all of you here. I know you've traveled far and wide to be here with us today. This is the first conference we have done for Ross grantees in a decade, literally. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the work you do. We have a full agenda today, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our leadership to you, who we're very pleased to have kick us off today. So first, I'd like to welcome our Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of Public Housing Investments, Bob Molderig, to the podium, and then we'll be followed by Felicia Gaither.
Thanks, Dina. Thank you all for being here today. It's really great to see it. You know, I want to first of all thank the staff, Dina, Trey, Jamie, anybody else who is associated with this, because first of all, to walk in today and see things looking so organized, it's not that easy to pull off a conference like this. So I'm grateful to all the staff for the good work that they've done. As Dina said, I'm Bob Molderig. I've been here, I've been at HUD since 2015. I've been in public housing investments for just about a year. I think it is one of the greatest jobs anywhere, but certainly one of the greatest jobs at HUD, because public housing investments is an amazing office. We do so many programs that are really transforming the face of public housing. The MTW program, Choice Neighborhoods program, mixed finance development, the capital fund, all those things which are changing the way that we finance our housing. But then we do all the social fabric programs like Ross and Jobs Plus and FSS. And together, you know, these are the things that I think really make a huge difference for residents in public housing and the voucher program throughout the country. So I consider myself, you know, so humble. I'm really humbled to be part of this organization and just think it's a terrific place to work. I first of all want to congratulate all the grantees. Ross doesn't exist without you. It doesn't exist from us. We have the easy part. We take the congressional appropriations, we run competitions, we try to do the best we can in monitoring the programs, but you are the people who make it work. And I am personally grateful to everyone in the room and anybody who isn't here who's associated with Ross for the good work that you do in helping people maximize their potential. I also want to thank all the other speakers who will be participating, Felicia in a couple of moments, and others who will be participating over the course of this next day and a half or 2 days. I should say, too, that I'm frustrated to tell you that I had signed up for an important training today, so I will not be around for most of the time. I'll try to come back again tomorrow morning and chat with some of you, but I won't be around for most of this time. But I'm certainly with you in spirit and regret that I can't be here more of the time during the day, but I know that you will be in very good hands with the staff and with all the great speakers who are coming here today. And Felicia, I want to particularly thank all the people from field operations. Between field operations and all of you, as I said, that's what really makes the Ross program and our other social fabric programs work so well throughout the country. Finally, I want to thank Apt Associates. I know, as I said, conference planning isn't an easy thing, and Apt Associates has been instrumental in helping us bring this to fruition. As I said, you walk in today and this is like clearly everything, all the details have been worked out. Between our staff and our contractors, we couldn't be more proud and more pleased with the success of getting to this point. I'm going to talk just for a very few minutes because I want to watch my time and make sure that I don't cut Felicia short. I'm going to talk for just a few minutes about sort of my personal attachment to the world of employment, but also to just maximizing potential, because of course Ross is unique among our social fabric programs in that it's not just focused on employment, but maximizing potential for everyone, no matter where they are, whether they're a disabled person, a senior person, a work-able person, maximizing the potential for wherever they are in their own life stage. I made a career change to come over to this kind of work a couple of decades ago. And when I was first thinking of that career change, I spent some time working as a volunteer staff member for a little storefront employment organization that's about 6 miles northwest of here, Jubilee Jobs. And it's truly a storefront operation. It was in a little townhouse with a little bitty waiting room, and in the back room, which was probably the dining room of the house at one point, a couple of job counselors set up, and I was privileged to join that staff for a while and work with them. It was perhaps my first introduction to recognizing the vulnerability that we all have. And I remember so clear that I was working with this one client, who I'll call him James. And James had been incarcerated for a couple of years on drug charges. This back in the era, of course, when, and still is unfortunately the case, when it didn't take much in terms of drug activity to be incarcerated for a substantial period of time. James was a very quiet person, but I always remember other people saying, he had a smile that would light up the room. I mean, he was just, when he smiled, it just made you feel so warm inside. And this guy really wanted to get back into employment. And so I was helping him set up, fairly, like maintenance type interviews. And, I naively tried to coach him, and I didn't know anything about coaching someone like this, but I naively tried to coach him and said, wear your best shirt, and make sure you're on time for the interview. So sure enough, I got the first interview set up, and the employer calls me later that day and says, no, James never showed up. So I called James, and I asked him to come in, and I said, what happened? And he said, well, you told me to wear my best shirt. And I was up in the attic looking for my best shirt, and I couldn't find it. And so I felt I shouldn't go to the interview because I couldn't find my best shirt. And I was like, oh, James, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that quite so literally, And he said, okay. And he said, well, can we get another interview? So I set up another interview for him. A couple days later, that employer calls me and said, James didn't show up. And so I called James, and this particular interview was early in the morning, 8 o'clock or something like that. And James came in, and he said, I overslept. And I woke up in time, I woke up before the interview, but I didn't want to be late. You told me not to be late. So I didn't want to be late, and so I didn't go to the interview. And I said, did you, maybe you should have, did you set an alarm? And he said, I should have an alarm clock, shouldn't I? And I said, yeah, you really should. Let's get you an alarm clock. Now, these were things that were so basic to me. And as I said, I was so naive in trying to, thinking that I was helping to coach him, and I wasn't putting myself in his spot at all. And James did get a job eventually. And of course, I don't know what has happened to James since. That was many, many years ago. But I remember thinking at the time, so why, how could, first I was surprised. Couldn't he have sort of like foreseen this? And then I thought, I remember something that in my own life, I had really kind of messed up badly the year before. And I thought, with all the resources I had of education and a good home, and most of all, family and people resources, how vulnerable I was to like completely messing up, and how every one of us in this room, everyone out there has such vulnerability that, a few things can change and you can be in a going south position pretty quickly. So that to me was sort of like the great lesson of the kind of work that we all do. And to this day, I have never forgotten that young man sitting across the desk from me, and I hope he's done well, but most important, he taught me the vulnerability that I think every one of us shares, whether it's for employment, for anything that is going to make a difference in moving us forward or moving us backward. It's all so serendipitous. And so that's why I think the kind of stuff that we do in Ross, as well as in Jobs Plus, as well as in family self-sufficiency, is just so fundamentally important. And so I want to thank all of you for being here today. We have, I think, an incredible conference. The work that all of the service coordinators do throughout the country is, as I said, what makes this happen for all of us. And I am incredibly grateful to all of you. We're going to have a lot of good information for service coordinators and for program administration over the course of the next 2 days. We have a great group of grantees. We have 53 new grantees this year. Give that a round of applause. That's 20 more than we had last year. And so we are really, really happy to be able to do this. As Dina said, this is the first time in 10 years we've done it. If I have anything to do about it, it won't be another 10 years before we do this again. I think we have a great opportunity to work together in these 2 days. I couldn't be more proud to be part of this organization and to be part of this effort with you. Thanks for coming, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Bob. Now I'd like to introduce Felicia Gaither, who is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of Field Operations, without whom we could not do this work. So thank you, Felicia, and your team.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. What a great day to be here in DC and be at the Ross Training Grantee Conference. I mean, who are the new grantees? Can I see by round of hands? Awesome. Congratulations. Who here is representing a tribal organization? Wonderful, wonderful. Housing authority? Okay. People in the neighborhood? Nonprofit organizations? All right, and last but not least, residents associations. Okay, they stayed home. All right. All right, I just like to know who I'm talking to. So again, good morning and welcome to the conference. And from what I hear, it's not an annual conference, so you are lucky to be here, and I'm happy to be here with you. Maybe we can work on making this an annual thing. What you think, Bob? All right, so you've heard I'm the Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Office of Field Operations. I have the great privilege of leading the folks across the country in 44 field offices. They are wonderful. I like them. Our field office staff are really the first point of contact for housing authorities, for our HUD grantees. And so first and foremost, I want to recognize our field office staff as well as the federal staff. So if you can just stand up, because these are the people who do the work every day that you touch in order to do this. And so we have Chad Trapinski, who's from our field office, and is one of our portfolio management specialists. Charles Eldridge, who's our national FSS and Ross coordinator. And we actually have some folks around this back tube here thing from our DC field office who are also able to be here with us. Through the live stream, other folks are joining in, but what I will say is you should know who your field office team is. And then we have Trey here, and I think there's some other folks from Bob's team that I don't see, but thank you to them, because through them, we have a great partnership and relationship in order to make sure that you have what you need to provide the services and the programs that you do. So again, I just want you to know a little more about the field offices and what they can do for you. So as I've stated, they're your first point of contact. If you have any questions about the program, any questions about your grants, how you should be administering your grants, please reach out to your field office points of contact. This is an interactive conversation. Show of hands, how many of you know who your field office, well, first of all, do you even know what state your field office is in? Let's start there. Who knows what state their field office is in? All right, there's no judgment or embarrassment, but Chad and Charles, you got some work to do. All right? So secondly, if you don't know what state it's in, that means you don't know who your point of contact is. If you leave here knowing anything after Wednesday, when this is all said and done, you should know who your point of contact is in your local field office. So please do that. We in the field office also have the responsibility for ensuring that you're implementing your programs in accordance with federal rules and regulations. If you don't know who that is and you run into problems, then you have a bigger problem. So we want to avoid that. See them as your helping arm. So we work with the headquarters staff. Charles does a lot. I was going to say Charles and his team, but Charles will let you know he's one. We treat him like he has a team. And so Charles works with the headquarters program staff to ensure that you get all of the information, and he is our direct point of contact also in the field. You are our boots on the ground, so we need to make sure that you have everything you need to ensure that the families you're working with have success, a pattern of success. We want you to meet your goals, and we want to increase the opportunities that you're able to offer to the families you serve. So with that, I also want to add, over the course of the next 2 days, you will have an opportunity to hear best practices and strategies to assist the families you serve to reach their full potential. That's what this is all about. This conference has been planned with a vision in mind to provide you with information and resources to put into your Ross tool belt. And so, you know, I want y'all to be like the Ross when we see the Ross on the commercial and everybody want to go there to have great things and great savings. You are the Ross that offers people an opportunity, right? That one offers sales on a good dress. You offer people opportunities, a tool for success, a way out, a way to a different lifestyle. So with that, I want you to be present in every workshop you attend. I want you to walk away with a takeaway. I have a lot of unfunded mandates. I wouldn't be a federal employee if I didn't. And so the one thing I ask is that you go in with an open mindset, whether it's this room or a breakout, with an open mindset thinking of how can I take my program from good to great? How do I, as a new grantee, take resources, network, meet people I don't know, and work to ensure that, again, the families I am here to serve get the best from me, from the federal government, and from any of the programs that I should ensure they have access to. So, the ultimate goal is helping your families to become self-sufficient. We recognize that some days the challenges and the barriers far outweigh any amount of funding that we can allow you to draw down. But the work you do is important, whether it's in a tribal organization, whether you're on the reservation, whether you're in an urban city, a rural community, a nonprofit organization, or you're a housing authority representative. The work you do is important. So as you are here this week, use your federal staff as a networking opportunity. Use them for their resources, for the information they know, the information they can connect you with, and walk away and return back to your local communities, knowing that you have a tool in your tool belt to help a family in need. Thank you for being here and taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the next 2 days.
Thank you so much to Felicia and Bob for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us and kick us off. Really appreciate it. So next up, we have an icebreaker, and that's going to be led by my wonderful colleague, Trey Humans. And he asked me not to introduce him, but I have to because he took over Ross. I used to manage Ross. Now he manages it, and I want to say publicly that he has done a tremendous job. Yes. He has raised it to new heights, and I'm very grateful for all the work that he has done and to be a colleague of his. So without further ado, Trey.
Good morning, everyone. So I got an opportunity to meet like the first row and probably the last row of tables, but I haven't met everyone in the middle. So I'm hoping I can do that before the end of the conference, and I'm pretty sure many of you guys have many questions for not only myself, but also some federal staff. I've already heard questions about Standard for Success. Nod your head if you're like, yeah. Okay. Woo. All right. So we have our work cut out for us. So we're going to do an icebreaker. Felicia already got us started by asking what types of applicants do we have here, but I also want to do some geography here. So how many people do we have from the East Coast that are in the, I heard somebody clapping, someone really loves the East Coast. How many people do we have from the West Coast? Nice. So how are you adapting to the time? Okay, they're still asleep. How many people do we have from the Midwest? Whoa, look at that. That's awesome. And how many people do we have from Alaska? Nice. Nice. I want to visit Alaska during the summer. So we're going to do an icebreaker here. At your tables, I want to get you guys going and have you guys start discussing. You probably already discussed your name, but I want you to say your name, where you're visiting from. If you won the lottery, what would be the first thing you would buy, and what or who motivates you? So take 5 minutes at your table, discuss your name, where you're visiting from. If you won the lottery, what's the first thing you would buy, and who or what motivates you? And we'll take 5 minutes. All right. So it sounds like you guys are being social. So you guys found out someone's name, right? Where they're from. Any interesting places in the building? No interesting places. All right. It's all interesting. If you won the lottery, heard with some interesting probably responses. I know if I won the lottery, I would buy probably my mother a house after I buy my own house, right? And I want to hear, well, we probably don't have time for this, but you can come talk to me afterwards, but who or what motivates you? And I want to say who or what motivates me, and that is really the prayers and the support of my family and friends, because I recognize the moment that I'm out of line, I lose integrity, I'm not purposeful, I dishonor the prayers and the support of my family. So that's what really motivates me to keep going. And I'm pretty sure that may be what the sentiment or testimony of many of you guys, that it's really those that support you, all right? And without further ado, I want to introduce a session that's going to come up about motivational interviewing. And many of you guys may have been on the webinar that we did in May on motivational interviewing in Alley Hall. We got her here in person. But before I do that, is Lachelle here? Oh, Lachelle. So Lachelle was also part of that motivational interviewing. She registered, and she's also here. And I just want to recognize her because she's also certified at motivational interviewing and may be a great resource to you. And she's from Fort Worth, Texas. All right. You could tell where Charles is from. So Allie Hall is a member of the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers and an independent consultant and trainer. Allie currently serves on the Mint Board of Directors at an at-large capacity focusing on professional skill development for motivational interviewing practitioners and trainers. Allie served as a lead trainer for the International Mint Training for New Trainers, TNT in New Orleans 2018 and Berlin 2015, and is serving as lead trainer for the TNT in Warsaw 2019. Allie has designed and facilitated more than 2,000 motivational interviewing workshops for health care practitioners, health coaches, social services providers, behavioral health clinicians, social workers, criminal justice professionals, psychologists, and psychiatrists, and provides training for trainers in evidence-based practices. That is everyone. Allie also provides training and consultation for effective case management, dialectical behavior therapy, hopefully I said that right, minimizing secondary trauma, and creating compassionate organizations. Allie regularly provides MI coding training, coding services, and skill development coaching, and provides regular consultation to systems for establishing communities of practice and for effective, sustainable MI implementation. Allie is a co-developer of the Motivational Interviewing Competency Assessment, a coding and coaching tool for MI skill improvement. Allie is the co-author of an MI skill building manual and toolkit to be released in late 2019. Allie is the subject matter expert for an MI with Adolescents video series produced by psychotherapy.net. Allie spent her undergraduate years at Occidental College in Los Angeles and completed her graduate studies in organizational behavior at the School of Industrial and Labor Relations at Cornell University, as well as her JD at Cornell University School of Law. In her spare time, Allie is a cold water marathon swimmer, raising funds for under-resourced kids charities. And for more information, training, and consultation, you can contact Allie. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Allie to the stage, and we can give her a hand.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Dina and Trey, for everything you did to bring us all together. So great to see so many folks here from everywhere, and I just want to value and appreciate the meaningful work that you do. I really can't imagine anything more important than helping increase housing stability and security. If we can even take a moment to think about all the things that perhaps our own housing stability and security allows us to do on a daily basis, the peace of mind that that offers, the value that that provides, and knowing that you're creating that opportunity for so many, I just really want to thank and appreciate everything that you're doing. And welcome you all to being here today. If you know a lot about motivational interviewing today already, that's great. That's an excellent place to be. If you're hearing about it for the first time, that's also a great place to be. Hopefully we can engage in some activities and some discussions together and find a way to build on what you already know and maybe even increase your appetite for learning more about it and trying a little bit more about it. So this is certainly a definition that we can each read aloud together. I'm hoping that someone would volunteer to read it aloud for us. If you would, if someone could get up and shout it out for us, it'd be great. And then if we could take a moment just to think about what particular components of this definition really mean something to you, what really connects with your work. Would anybody be willing to shout it out for us? Where are we? There she is. Thank you. Please. She's got it. Thank you.
Motivational interviewing, a definition. Motivational interviewing, MI, is a collaborative conversation style for strengthening a person's own motivation and commitment to change.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good. Excellent. And so, what to you stands out? What seems like good news to you for your work? Collaborative conversation, sure. Partnership, alliance, working together. Being on the same side of the ball, moving together in a shared direction. What else? A person's own motivation. Yeah, what's in it for them, not what's in it for me, for them. Helping people identify their own motivations and strengthen those. Sure, people are most motivated for that which belongs to them, and so we want to draw that forward. What else? Change, yeah. That's that shared agenda topic that's on the table where we're moving forward in a purposeful, meaningful, effective direction that relates to change. Sure, it's more than a conversation. We're going somewhere together that's very specific for that person. Anything else about this stuff? Commitment, yeah, absolutely, sure. We might have ideas about change. We might have values related to change, strengths related to change. Forming commitments is another matter altogether. And so how to help people create a greater sense of readiness for change to take place, which is built on both importance and confidence. Helping people find enough why, enough can, so that they can create the how. Okay, so a lot of different moving pieces in this definition. Bill Miller, who described motivational interviewing, later said he was sorry he called it that. He wished, too late, that's what we got, but he wished he just called it motivational conversation because it's people talking together about change. And if you wander down the street today, you listen to one another, we hear people talking about change all the time. So people are always talking together about change. You might talk about it in the car, on your commute with others, you might talk about it at home, you might talk about it at work. Everyone's always talking about change. It's a great thing in some ways to be satisfied to some extent with the way things are, and yet not entirely. And that distance between where we are and where we want to be definitely creates some motivation. How do we help people move to that direction? So a motivational conversation, really at its root, is finding out how a person sees their situation, how they would like to see their situation, and how they see us being an important partner in getting there at its absolute root. Even if we took the phrase interview, though, but we divided it up, inter and view, it would be together to look at, which is also the essence of a collaborative conversation. It's seeing things alongside someone's perspective. People change from their perspective, not from mine. As soon as I insist that your perspective about your situation is wrong and you need to see it my way in order to get where I want you to go, the conversation's already over. Now we've got a battle, and we don't need that. We need to work together with people. So helping people feel heard and understood not only where they are, but where they want to go and how they see us being a partner getting there. So as we said, it is collaborative, it is a conversation, it is a style. It's not just a collection of skills and strategies. It's not a way of tricking people into doing what we want them to do, but helping people find out what's true inside and finding a way to actualize that. So strengthening that which is inside others and helping them move in a way to form commitments that feel meaningful and relevant to them based on their strengths, their skills, their goals, what matters to them. And we're a good partner in that process. So a little bit about the definition of motivational interviewing. Something to think about is that there really are three broad ways of talking with people when we're in change conversations. One is a directing style. You go here, you go there. Not very helpful for change conversations. Anytime someone wants to play the expert in your life about your change, we know what happens. We get bristly about it. We say, hold on a second. Who just appointed you expert of me? Yeah, how did that come about? Directing is a very helpful style when there's a bona fide emergency. If there was a fire alarm in this, knock on wood, this doesn't happen, but if there's a fire alarm in this building right now, someone takes charge. You go here, you go there. It makes sense. We're not having a motivational conversation. Not a good time for a motivational conversation in a bona fide emergency. Thankfully, emergencies are very rare in life. Even if somebody comes in highly escalated, it doesn't mean it's an emergency. It may mean it's time to calm down and take a deep breath and figure out where to go from here. So sometimes things that look like an emergency, we can actually turn into a guiding conversation. Let's take a moment to figure out, of all the different things that are going on for you, what's your top priority right now? Where should we get started together? So de-escalating and finding a way to get into that guiding framework, that middle ground, where we're working together to go somewhere. Following makes sense if a person already has a plan that they've figured out and they're already going to head in that direction. Then we just say, good, great, excellent, you've got it figured out. Doesn't need much from us. Fortunately, though, guiding is perhaps the style that's used in 90% of human conversations in an ideal world. Because what do we do as human beings? We're always trying to figure stuff out. Every day, we're trying to figure stuff out. We're trying to make decisions, and we're trying to move in ways that matter to us. That's where a guide can be really helpful. The person has expertise. We have expertise. Together, we can figure it out. So most conversations really are about guiding, and so MI is considered a refined form of guiding. Most conversations that look like they could be served by directing or look like they could be served by following, not so much. They really can be pulled into the guiding framework. Even if somebody says, I know what I got to do, I just got to do it. It sounds like a plan, and it isn't. It's too vague to be a plan. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Tell me more about what it is you think you need to do. Tell me more about what's important to you here. When you say just got to do it, what does just got to do it mean to you? We want people to get very, very specific about what they mean by that. So even something that looks like following, we bring it back into guiding. Just something to think about. So just a brief list, and it's beyond what we can do in our time together today, but a brief list of things that are helpful and you may have heard of in motivational interviewing. The heart set and mindset of motivational interviewing is really, we're gonna spend a little bit of time about that and see where that's already operating well for you in your work with others. That's the foundation and the fundamental piece. If we don't have that attitude with respect to others, we can't even get into the change conversation. People can tell whether we respect them or not. People can tell whether we view them as having absolute worth or not. People can tell whether they matter or not. It takes a glance, a tone of voice. If you've ever been on the phone with somebody, maybe you can't see them, but you can hear them roll their eyes. That thing, we can feel when people are dismissive of us. We can feel when people are derisive. We can feel whether people care or not. And this is part of this heart set and mindset that we all bring and we know is important to change conversations. The spirit or style of motivational interviewing, and we have a brief activity to do together where we talk about the various pieces, and then you have an opportunity to share with each other, where do you already operationalize these in your work with others? The core micro skills, which are beyond what we can do today, but they're really made up of open inquiry, of being affirming with others, most importantly, of reflecting the perspective that we hear the other person bring to the situation, and also summarizing at key points to help people move forward from a platform where they are to where they want to go. The 4 processes of motivational interviewing is sort of a GPS guide that if we were to do a longer workshop or you were to actually attend a full workshop in motivational interviewing, we would actually practice activities in each of these 4 processes, and we'll just overview them very quickly. Reactance and the writing reflex. Hard to say too much about this. Reactance is when a person's freedom or ability to choose for themselves feels constrained in any way. And that's the kind of thing when we say in a directing style, do this or you can't do that, all of a sudden the person wants to do just exactly the opposite. And if you're not sure that this is true, you can try it at home. Just tell people what to do and immediately they want to do just the opposite thing. Because their freedom feels constrained. They see a door being closed. Even if it's not a good thing to have that door stay open, people want to keep pushing that door open. So every time we jump in an advising, telling, directing way, people have a natural tendency to want to push back against that. Interestingly, even inside of ourselves, we have an internal reactance sometimes to that sort of wiser or better voice inside of us. Have you ever rebelled against yourself? Like you're trying to push yourself to do something, and then there's something inside of you that pushes back against the thing that's pushing you? It's all happening inside here. Reactance can even come up inside of us. So anytime there's something that's trying to foreclose choices or push us in a particular direction, we will act out. Acting out may include dismissing the message, dismissing the messenger, or just plain pushing back. All of these things happen with reactance. Unfortunately, though, when we see reactance, what we have as a human urge is to try to fix or solve or put things back right. So when we see something is wrong in a situation or doesn't look right to us, we want to pick it up and right it. It's a great intention, and it's a great desire that we may have, but that generally increases more reactance. If I see something that I think is amiss and I try to fix it, the person is going to push back more strongly with us. We're going to try to get on the same side of the ball with others and help people fix what they see that they want to fix for themselves, not what we see needs to be fixed. Exchanging information is a similar strategy where we try to find out what people already know and ask permission to be part of the conversation to figure things out together. Some of these things we won't have time to do today, but we'll do as much as we can. So back to this core heart set or mindset of motivational interviewing. We call it the Michelangelo belief for a reason. But it is a belief that the capacity and potential for change and adherence already exists inside the person. It's something that already is there inside, and our job is to bring forward those things. Called the Michelangelo belief because when the sculptor was asked, "How did you carve such a beautiful statue?" he said something in Italian, but it roughly translates to, when I saw the stone, I saw what was inside the stone, and I brought forward the thing that was already there. I actually didn't do anything. I just liberated the thing that was already inside. So similarly, when we're working with people, we always view them that they have everything that they need already, and our job is to help them find it. Hence the core heart set and mindset of MI that tends to keep us fairly well on track. So rather than giving people what we think they lack, we're trying to evoke from people what they already have. And in this case, it always helps to remember that everyone has inside substantial personal expertise. They have wisdom regarding themselves. And if we provide a proper climate, we can help those things come forward and help those things grow. Just as if you were to stumble upon a seed today, that seed already has everything it needs to become whatever it's going to be, who knows, if it has the right climate to grow in that direction. We can't make a seed grow, but we can provide the right nutrition, the right climate, the right soil, the right conditions for it to flourish and become whatever it's going to be. And so one of those things happened for me when in the first implementation that I ever was asked to provide in motivational interviewing. And this came through a housing program for Well, so, okay, to back up for a second, some years ago now, a program had been provided some amount of money through a grant to, in the grant's terms, provide housing stability for chronically homeless addicts. So right away we're hearing some language things that are a little bit concerning. And the participants of the program could come into residential treatment to be relieved of their addictions as well as their homelessness, and then receive all kinds of wonderful services, provided they came from one of three different environments, either the county jail, the county hospital, or from the streets. Before I was asked to be the program manager, the recruitment strategy for the program was to go into the county hospital, to the county jail, and on the street, and tell people how miserable and unhappy their lives were, how difficult and horrible their lives were, how they really didn't know what to do for themselves, but over here, look, we've got these great things for you. So as you can tell, first of all, not a great recruitment strategy to tell people that everything that they were doing is wrong and they had no idea how to live, and that really if they just came over here, everything would be okay. So first of all, the program had difficulties getting people to be convinced to come into residential treatment. Not the greatest setup in the world. So A, recruitment strategy was a problem, but B, even when people came in, they were told everything that was wrong with their lives and everything that they should do to make it better. So the success rate for the program was at about 10%, which is, the program was very, I don't know, proud of their success rate, but really when you think about it, they were running 90% of the clients that they had managed to recruit through this really sort of questionable strategy. They managed to run 90% of the clients out of the program, telling them everything that was wrong with them. Everything you learned out there isn't going to do you any good here. You got to do it this way. Total directing style. So what we did is actually turned it into a program that was based on motivational interviewing. You have what you need. Some things might be working well for you. We can build on what's working well. We can figure out where you want to go from here. Like to be a good partner in the process. So simply changing the way we talked with people, within 3 months, the program success rate was at 90%. And not because the food changed, not because the paint color changed, not because the beds were better, not because of anything except how we were talking with people. The way we speak with people is based on how we view them. How we view them determines how they're going to be. So simply by changing the way that we spoke with others, people had educational achievement, they had employment achievement, they were able to reduce their own housing insecurity, simply by honoring the resources that people had inside. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about. Same people, different approach. The only thing that changed was how we were talking with people, and complete different result. Because now we started to base the program on, you already have what you need, and together we will find it and figure out where to go from here together. So the elements of MI Spirit that we implemented in that program that we're going to ask you to talk about in just a moment now. Partnership, this idea about collaboration, about working together, about forming an alliance, about having a shared agenda. This thing of working together. We can certainly go farther when we're working together. Directing is certainly antithetical to a partnership stance, finding ways to work together and collaborate in an alliance. Acceptance is a really big word, and it conveys more simply than non-judgment. It means really embracing the absolute worth of the other. We do this in a glance. We do this by looking up at people, by looking them in the eye, by thanking them, by holding a door open for others. We do things by showing people they matter. It's also a strategy that comes from being affirming, showing that we care about what people say, and showing people that we hear them accurately. So affirming absolute worth, honoring the autonomy of the other to make decisions for themselves. You have what you need and you'll be able to decide, I'd like to help you if I can, asking permission to enter into conversations with people. All of these things are sort of built into the word acceptance. And people can tell very clearly whether we accept them or not. They can tell whether we're welcoming or not. The other day I was at a housing agency waiting to offer a workshop. I couldn't see what was happening at the reception window, but I could hear when people came in the door. There were two different receptionists. One took over for the other while on break. The first receptionist I overheard when someone came into the door to be served. oh my gosh, that looks heavy. Put it down. And it's so hot today. Here, we have some water. Take a seat, it'll be a few minutes. It's a reasonable exchange. So then there's an exchange of receptionists. The next person who comes in the door needs your ID and insurance card. Like a really different way of inviting people through the door. You can only imagine. It takes the same amount of time to say each thing, and which person feels more welcomed, which person feels accepted, which person feels honored. And it doesn't take much, just our attention to how people feel and how we would want to be welcomed and what to do to be welcoming. Compassion, showing others that their needs are of highest priority. This isn't just about me and what the program needs and what I need out of you. This is that your needs are important first. Really showing people that their needs are of highest priority. And evocation, sort of the strangest word on the list maybe, but the root of it is to call forward that which is already present, to evoke or bring out. Water in the well, bringing out the water that's there, rather than assuming the well is empty and we need to put water in. Evoking, calling forward, bringing out something that is already present, which means an assumption on our part that there is something to be called forward. Realizing that expertise and wisdom and trying to draw it forward. Okay, so elements of MI spirit. When we speak about compassion, what it is we're talking about, by the way, is the compassion that can stand in awe at what people have to carry rather than being in judgment of them as to how they're carrying it. This is really the stance that we're talking about here. And I know that you've got that operating inside for you already. So we're going to do a little quick quiz. You didn't think we would have a quiz so early in the morning, but we got a quiz. We got a quiz in the morning about MI spirit. So if the statement so there's going to be a statement followed by a response, a client or resident statement followed by a practitioner response. If the response is consistent with an MI spirit approach, we want to hear a great big round of applause. So, okay, let's assume it's MI consistent. What are we going to do? Yay. Thumbs up, good stuff, right? MI inconsistent, what sign do you want to give? Yeah, kind of a groan and a, yeah? Okay, if it's MI consistent, it gets a round of applause. If it's spirit inconsistent, it gets a groan and a thumbs down. Fair? All right, quick quiz. Our resident says, I don't see how I can do all these things. Well, if you don't, you'll be out on the streets again. No. Not so much, right? And actually one program that I consulted with, they had a little bit of a problem because this is the way they did things. And they actually had some clients say, fine, anything so that I don't have to be treated like this, you know? I wasn't loving sleeping on the street, but I tell you, I had respect, I had a community, and I'm not anything but to be treated like this. Okay. This is the kind of program that drives 90% out the door. We're not trying to do that. Okay. Same statement, I don't see how I can do all these things. It feels overwhelming, and you're looking for a way to get started. Right, so MI spirit, we got it. Okay, next statement, I don't understand all these rules. You've been here long enough to know better. Oh, not so much. And this, it's kind of a human response. We get tired, and we're like, oh, come on, really? But to find that resilience within us, how about this? Maybe we can sort it out together. Yeah. We got it. Okay. I like my furniture this way. And how many times have we heard this, particularly where people are trying to age well in place? I like my furniture this way. Don't be telling me how to move my furniture around. But you're going to trip. If you fall again, you'll have to go to a skilled care facility. This assumption that ordering and warning and threatening people with something that we think is a bad thing for them is going to convince them that they need to change. So not so much. Your independence is important to you. Maybe we can come up with something together so you can enjoy your furniture and not risk a fall. What do you think? All right, much better, right? Finding a way to work together, even though there may be challenges to face, rather than telling people how to do it and making them feel bad. People generally don't change when they feel bad about themselves, so I'm not sure why it's a time-honored strategy to try to make them feel bad. but this idea of really bringing forward the capacities that are in others so that they can use them. Okay, now, spirit activity, if you will. Please find someone to talk with, either somebody right near you or run around the room, whatever you like to do. How does treating people in a way that's consistent with MI spirit, how does that benefit them? How does that benefit our work? Where do you already show these qualities to others? And what one thing can you do, especially in challenging situations? What do you always want to remember to do, no matter how challenged you feel, no matter how tired you are? So please discuss these things together. You can find one partner, you can talk together as a larger group, whatever you like. I'm going to do a quick time check and see what we got. It's about, I don't know, about 10 minutes or so. Please talk together, share your insights with one another. I'll bring you back in 10 minutes with this little bell. Fair? Okay. direction? Oh. All right. If you'll pause your conversations, and please thank your partners for talking with you and sharing their insights and allowing you to share yours. Thank you. And so it's something that bears in mind, how we treat others matters. It matters at very minimum to us, to how we feel about ourselves at the end of the day. Not an unimportant thing. It's any interpersonal thing has an impact not only on the person we're serving, but also how we feel about ourselves. So anything we can do to feel better about that is great. We also don't always know the impact that our conversations have with others. We may have 30 seconds with a person, we may see them in passing, we may never see them again, we may have many conversations or extended conversations with others. We may serve them over many years. It's always hard to know. And recently I was talking with a woman who said, I often don't see people again, and sometimes I wonder, does what I do really matter? And she operates a housing program in northern Nevada, and she often talks with people who are on the streets, being trafficked and so on. And she goes around and she'll often hand people her cards and welcome them to come in to attend group and try to become part of the housing program and all this. And many days she goes away discouraged. And one day she came into her program, she walked in the door one morning, and a woman rushed up to her eagerly and said, you probably don't remember me because you've met thousands of people, I'm sure. But you gave your card to me 7 years ago. And I've had it in my wallet every single day. And when you gave me your card, I knew I wasn't ready yet to come to your program, but I've never let a day pass without thinking that someday I want to do that. And today I made a decision to come in and seek services here. We don't always know, and it doesn't always come back to us 7 years later either, but she had that really neat closure of that circle. And so we don't always know, but you do make a difference every moment that we're kind to others and compassionate and treat others with absolute worth. One thing that we think about in MI is these 4 processes, and it doesn't mean that they're lengthy things, but they're natural progressions of the way that we work with other people. As a foundation, you can think of this as a layer cake or a staircase. I like the layer cake myself, but you can think of it as previous processes always provide a continued foundation, or the foundation of a house. You're working on the roof, but boy, you better have a good foundation, right? Engaging is that foundation. The person is making a decision. Will they work with us or not? Can I trust you? Will I work with you? And as the person is making that decision and they're saying tentatively, yeah, I think I'll get in a boat with you, then we may start to think about, okay, now we're in a boat together, where are we going to go? Where are our horizon lines? And here we're developing a shared agenda of places that we could visit together. These aren't directions that I impose on you or I lose engagement with you. Oh, great, I'm glad you're in a boat with me, we're going to go over here. And you're like, no, I want to go over there. That thing, finding a shared direction, figuring out our various horizon lines, which means really having the active participation and buy-in and activation of the desires that are inside a person. Evoking, now we're going to help develop the fuel that the person is going to need for that journey. This is where we begin to focus on discussing importance and confidence to head in the direction that they've chosen for themselves. And if importance and confidence are strong enough, then we start to think about how, or the planning part. It doesn't mean that planning is a long way away. It just means that there are some things we need to do to prepare the ground well enough for planning to take place. Something to think about when we're helping others enhance readiness for change is helping others explore importance for heading in that direction that they've said that is important to them, that they said that they would like to go, as well as the ability or confidence, the skills and strengths that it's going to take to go in that direction. Here's an activity that you can do as a self-motivational conversation. If you think about a change that you've been considering, If on the importance side, you identify for yourself 3 values that are critical to that change, what values are going to serve that change? How is that change going to serve those values? What 3 values really make you tick with respect to that change? Then you think about the confidence side. What are 3 skills or strengths that you're going to bring to that? Think about something impossible that you've done before. What's an impossible thing you've done? What skills and strengths have helped you do that? Your 3 values and your 3 strengths, wherever they come from, are going to help you no matter what situation you're in and help you to become more ready for whatever impossible challenge looks like it's just in front of you. So a quick way to think about both the intersection of importance and confidence that helps us increase our own readiness for making decisions and moving in a change direction. When we think about the difference here, helping people change, the pushing style is sort of one of those human defaults, right? We're often trying to push people in a change direction. I'm going to suggest that instead we think about helping pull people by helping them pull from the motivations that are already inside of them. So we're going to contrast pushing and pulling. The pushing side says, you need to do this, it's important that you do this. Pulling for the change, we ask the person, in what ways is this important to you? We're trying to bring the motivations outside from within others. You have to do this versus how would doing this help you? Just to think about or reorienting ourselves from a pushing to helping pull the motivation from the other so that they can pull themselves where they need to go. Anybody met her? Yeah. How you characterize this makes a really big difference, yeah? What are some what are some qualities that you could identify in this young girl? Strong-willed, yeah. You could say all kinds of things on the negative side, but on the positive side, she's strong-willed. She's saying, not unless I want to, yeah? Or you can't tell me, or I have to have a say in this, yeah? So very often what happens is people's response gets created by whatever we do. And then when we see this, we may say, wait a minute, it seems like I was pushing you to go in a particular direction rather than asking you why you might want to go there. So sometimes when we see a reaction, it's in response to something we've done, but now we have a chance to repair the conversation. So anytime you get a look like this, you think about how to repair the conversation. Conversation repair is a really important part of motivational interviewing. What we do, particularly in exchanging information that does not result in this, exchanging information to explore what's already inside, by reflecting and affirming the insights that others have, the wisdom and expertise that they already have, asking permission to offer ideas for them to consider, inviting them to try those things on, and emphasizing their autonomy and expertise to know what's best for them. You might have ideas, I might have ideas, together we can figure this out. Is it okay? Let's see if we can move together in a direction, and the choices are really yours. I could offer you some ideas. What you want to do them is really up to you, emphasizing their autonomy. Who can learn MI? Well, turns out anyone can learn MI if you have the desire and the underlying belief that the other has the answers inside, and if you work well with them, together you will get there. Skill acquisition isn't necessarily related to years of experience. It's really related to that ability to set aside our ideas of what's best for the person and to figure out a way to collaborate with them to go ahead. Sometimes it's just not doing things that get in the way. Why get in the way? Why put obstacles in the path that don't need to be there? People already have enough challenges. They don't need for me to become one of their challenges. So I'm always trying to reduce anything that can get in the way, so we reduce the MI inconsistent things, and we do things that are consistent. So we do more of the spirit stuff and less of the non-spirit stuff. Things that you can expect, and you'll have access to these materials later, things that you can expect at different levels of training in motivational interviewing and the length of training. Usually for introductory trainings, you can expect an enhancement of spirit and acquiring some rudimentary skills in MI, and then to build upon those. The thing that helps people grow fastest in their ability to use these skills effectively in their work is to get personalized and individualized feedback, to really be able to hear ourselves. If you are wanting to learn to play piano or tennis or something like that, you'd hire a coach, you'd hire a teacher who would say, great, you're doing a great job with that, bend your elbows a little bit, relax. They would give you one little piece of things that you need to know, and then all of a sudden everything would work for you. So hard to overemphasize the importance of having personalized and individualized feedback and coaching in the development of yourself as MI experts. So some things that you might look at and research around MI. And I love this. This is a concrete playing wall at a school that's near my neighborhood. And I love this. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. And I know that every day you're helping so many people who are facing incredible obstacles, and you're helping them do that with grace and with absolute worth. Thank you for this time together, and best wishes, and we'll get to spend more time together today and have many more opportunities to talk not only about MI, but other things that are helpful to you in serving those who need the help most. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Allie. Let's give her a round of applause for that awesome presentation. It feels so good to hear about kindness, honestly. You know, it really does. I think we could use a lot more of it. So our next panel will build on this, and I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Gaynell Bowden-Diaz, who I've had the pleasure of working with personally on a volunteer project where we did some gardening with the Alexandria Redevelopment and Housing Authority residents. And I saw firsthand just how committed she is to her community and the hours she puts into the work and the love she has for her community, and then the respect that they then show her. So it's a real honor to have her here today. And so I will turn it over to you. Do you have the clicker? No, there's the clicker.
Thank you. Make sure I figure out how this works. Okay, perfect. Good morning. Thank you. I was really honored that Dina and Trey asked me to speak today. So what I wanted to talk to you about was putting motivational interview techniques into practice and some of the things that we do at the Alexandria Redevelopment and Housing Authority that has led us to be successful with our programs. So when we think about motivational interviewing, we're trying to build a partnership and let our residents know that we want to work together with them. And there's sort of three things that we think about. We want to engage our clients. We want to develop positive relationships involving reflective listening and motivate them to change specific behaviors and make positive changes. So, it's, again, building on what Allie was saying, it's a lot about asking them what they want to achieve, because a lot of times they know what they want to do. It's just a matter of just trying to figure out how to get there. And so we also see ourselves as the resource, place that we can offer resources and services to them, and making sure that they know where to go and how we can help them get to where they want to go. Next slide. So what I'm going to share is sort of what we do is we like to say we meet residents where they are. We like to keep them engaged and motivated. I'm going to share some specifics about that, and then kind of end up with what we call our best promising practice in action, which is it takes a village, and show how we work with all of the resources that we have within the city of Alexandria to achieve that. Okay. So when we say meet residents where they are, one of the things we do is provide flexible scheduling for a meeting. So that might not only be a location and time. So for instance, sometimes they might not have transportation, so we may go and meet them in the home. Sometimes they may not have childcare and they don't want to bring the kids in the office, or if it's young kids. So again, or if they do have younger kids, we encourage them, they can come in the office and we have activities or things on hand for them to do while they're meeting. Believe it or not, some people may not even like the atmosphere of the office. Sometimes they don't have the best relationship with their leasing specialist, or depending on the sensitivity of what they want to talk about, it's a little uncomfortable. So we will say, okay, so maybe we can meet somewhere near the office. Maybe we can meet in a park, or just a neutral location that sort of takes away some of whatever that anxiety they may have and overcome that barrier. If they are working, sometimes, maybe it's meeting early in the morning before they go to work, or in the evening after they get off from work, or even on a Saturday morning. And I know those are not always the most popular time, but the nice thing about it is a lot of times you can flex and make up for those. But just going those little extra miles, again, that shows them that you're caring and that you're trying to, build that relationship and really help them. Also making yourself accessible through, again, giving them multiple ways to contact you. So whether it's phone, email, text, instant messaging, even social media. And also, again, realizing that don't putting every resident in the same box or being kind of dismissive or anything like that. Realizing that everybody is an individual and that even people with similar challenges that same strategy may not work for everyone. And all of this is going toward helping, again, to build their confidence, and self-esteem, and trust with you. So, next slide. And these are just some of the things I was talking about, again, agreeing to, meet after 6 on a Saturday morning if it's better for their schedule. We've actually had cases too. So for instance, maybe you're trying to reach out to a client and you call from the office phone, and a lot of people have caller ID, client won't answer, hang up, call from, your work phone, or send a text message, you get an answer just like that. So we have that happen a lot of times. They won't answer the office phone if they see that number, but they'll answer from, your office, your cell phone or something like that. And again, I think it's just really important, again, to just make sure that you're being open and supportive and not being judgmental, and using that positive approach, an open approach to doing things in a different way. So in terms of keeping residents engaged and motivated to achieve their goals, we try to be consistent in communication, and we don't want to be nagging, but also just making yourself, again, available. So maybe that's a motivational text message. If you've done a referral and you know that they have a specific meeting, maybe just following up, just checking in with them. Again, showing them that you care, and just making sure, to see, how did it go? And then also, trying to schedule, I would say designated intervals to check in. There might be some residents where if you don't reach out, you may see them once a year. But, when we sit down and we're setting up plans, we say, hey, I'm gonna check in depending on what they need, saying, I'm gonna check in with you at least every 3 months if I haven't heard from you, and making sure that they're okay with that. And then some people you may check in with on a more weekly basis. A lot of times, clients, they'll kind of let you guide that, and you can see, how often you can engage with them in terms of keeping them motivated. Also, providing learning opportunities based on needs. And I'm sure all of us do a lot of workshops or a series of classes, and sometimes we have found that it's better to do things more on a one-on-one case basis, with this financial literacy. They may do better in one-on-one settings if we can find volunteers to set up those opportunities. And then sometimes it's providing specific workshops. We were doing one with soft skills and working with helping people develop interviewing skills and knowing what to wear. And we found a really great volunteer who not only came in and did that workshop, but she did it in an interactive, engaging way where she had an array of outfits, and then let them pick out, so which outfit would you wear? And then they talked about why would you wear that. She even went and had different types of jewelry and things, and it was interesting to see people, they'd be like, oh, well, I thought these would be really good, or different types of, heels or shoes. So, setting up workshops like that so that it's really interactive, engaging, and it's teaching without, being, sort of preaching. Recognizing accomplishments and achievements. And that could be as simple as an email, but it could also be certificates. We have another program that we work a lot with called Together We Bake that works with teaching women baking skills, but also does other supportive therapy. And at the end, they come out with their food handler certification, and then they work with them to help place them in jobs. So when they have their graduations, we try to make sure that we attend, or any kind of program like that, because again, that shows that you're their biggest cheerleader and you're still supportive, and that you're still there with them, helping them achieve their goals. So, and again, just specific examples, again, making sure that you're meeting with them on a consistent basis and you're following up after referrals, and highlighting their success stories. The other thing that we do is we have like a success story section on our website so that we can recognize when they've made specific accomplishments. And you could also do that, through a newsletter or maybe at your board meeting or social media. So I think a lot of times that also continues to build up their confidence and their self-esteem as they're going on this journey. And the best practices, and we like to call it takes a village. I think we are really blessed in Alexandria to have a lot of support from the community and different agencies, but we also spend a lot of time working on a lot of partnerships. We work a lot with our Recreation and Culture and Parks Department in terms of providing very reduced, a lot of times free opportunities, summer opportunities, and out-of-school time opportunities for our residents. And they've been a great partner in that, so that removes that barrier from a lot of our residents being able to go take classes or go to school themselves or find employment. We've even had to, we have a program where in Department of Community Services where they can get the child care subsidies, but they have to be working. So, and sometimes we've had to attend meetings to help if there's a problem with the sanction. And I think that's one thing you should also be open with too, is that sometimes you might have to attend a meeting with them with another agency, or even go to the school if it's an IEP issue. To help them articulate and make sure that they are understanding what's going on. With workforce development, we've had a lot of challenges there because there are programs and we can send residents over, but they kind of get lost in the fray. So we sat down with them and worked out like a specific referral process so that when we send our residents there, they're seeing one person, and that one person can then help them navigate what all the resources are there and the different programs. Because what would happen a lot of times before that is they would just get lost and get frustrated and get bounced around. So we were trying to minimize, that impact, and that's been working really well. Again, we have partnerships with Alexandria City Public Schools and some of the preschool networks. When we have any kind of community events, they actually can come in and they provide information about free preschool programs for 3- and 4-year-olds. I talked about Together We Bake. And even with volunteers, a lot of times people will say, well, I don't have all those things in my community, or if I don't have this specific program like financial literacy. So one of my things is if it doesn't exist, you just got to create it and try to utilize what you do have. So Volunteer Alexandria has been a good resource for us as well, and I know they have similar similar agencies across the country, but you can put out your own description of volunteers that you're looking for, and there are a lot of people that are always willing to give back. Actually, that's one of the ways that Dina and I met when we were working with Volunteer Alexandria in our community gardening program. So you can kind of create that opportunity for your residents. We also have a very strong relationship with our resident association. It turns out that our actual Ross coordinator started out as a resident, and she actually was active in the resident association and has progressed, and now is actually working for the housing authority and is not actually living in our housing authority anymore. So that's one of our greatest success stories. But they're also, again, a great partner and resource to us as well. And I think that's probably the end of my conclusion, so my presentation. So I'll move over.
So I'm sure the audience has questions for our experts up here. So please feel free to make your way to the mics if you have questions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, can you guys go back once? There we go. Great. In the meantime, while you are maybe formulating your questions, I do have a question for both of you. I guess, Gaynell, for you, can you give us an example of your biggest, or one of your biggest successes in terms of residents, how you worked with a resident and then you saw, I know Chanel is here.
Right.
but-
So I know we have one specific resident that was, she was really dealing with self-esteem issues. And so one of the things that we did with her is, well, we created opportunities for her to be able to volunteer and come into the office and to, help her, with her career goals and terms, and have her work with us. And then from there, she was able to sign up for another Workforce Ready 360 program, and she just excelled. She was like one of their stars now, and I think it helped her kind of identify some of the things on paper. She was very hireable, but she didn't have the confidence to sort of exhibit those things in person. And so they helped her identify what those things were that she needed to work on. And now she's been out on this is a recent one, a couple of interviews, so we're very hopeful that she's gonna be getting a job soon. But I think for her, just being able to at least come in and volunteer and get out of her home, in addition to, just continue to work in developing those skills that she has.
That's a great idea. Does anybody have any questions? You want to go to the mic and tell us who you are, what grantee you are? That would be great.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Alexander. I'm from Tuscaloosa Housing Authority, and I'm a Ross grantee for about 3 years now. My question is, you mentioned something about child care assistance through DHS, and we have a similar program through our DHR. The issue is you have to be employed in order for you to get the child care assistance. And we're running into a challenge where individuals want to work and they have small children at home. However, they are not able to get the child care assistance prior to finding employment. Do you have any success stories or any ideas of how we can get that taken care of so they can go to work without having to wait on the child care assistance?
Okay. So we run into that challenge a lot as well. Recently, we had one resident who actually had lost her job, and then she was running into an opportunity where she was getting ready to get sanctioned and lose it. And so in that particular case, we found a solution where we had a temp company that had worked with us, and they were able to hire her through the temp company and basically help her to make sure she didn't lose the voucher. And then as long as it kept her continually working, and then until she could find something more permanent. So that was one specific case, and then and he's offered to work with us, because a lot of times what happens is if they're not working and their name comes up on the list, they have to find something like in a relatively short window of time. So that was, I would say, a creative solution that we found, because she was working with a temp agency, and then she was able to continue that until she found something permanent. So.
Any other questions from the audience? Don't be shy. This is a great opportunity to learn from real experts. Okay, well, while we're waiting, Allie, can you tell us about the Michelangelo belief a little bit more? So let's say that there's somebody who just really doesn't know what they need or what their interests are, and yet there's this beautiful piece of stone, and we know there's something priceless and precious in it. So how do you help that person using MI to come out?
Yeah, sure. And so it's the belief that we always hold about people, that they really know themselves best. And sometimes I don't know is a really great place to be, because it allows us to discover and decide who we are and figure out who we are. It may also indicate an openness even more strongly to our partnership. So you may say, we can even normalize. It's really okay not to know. A lot of people are in positions of not knowing, and that's a great place to start. I can tell you what's been helpful to other people in similar situations, such as X, Y, and Z. What do you think? Would one of those options be interesting to you? So sometimes it allows us to offer a narrow range of very normalized options. Sometimes we even ask people, there are lots of great ways to go about this, and the way that you come up with that's going to work best for you is obviously going to be the best way, and it's normal not to know. Some people try this, some people try that, some people try that. Do those sound interesting to you, or is there something else that occurs to you as you hear about those? It gives us a way to normalize and sort of bracket. And even in our assessments with others, we want to normalize that any response is really acceptable. There are lots of ways that people resolve conflicts with others. Some argue, some take time to walk around the block and think, some sit down and talk it out. What would you say your style is? You're showing a range of options that are all acceptable and then allowing people to find their own place in it.
Great, thank you. That was wonderful. We have an online question.
Oh.
Yeah, we have a question online, and for folks who are watching the live stream, just continue to send your questions in to ross-pih@hud.gov. So the question is, what do you think about people who just aren't motivated enough?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and an answer that's consistent with motivational interviewing is everyone is motivated for something, and our job is to learn what that is. Now, that person may not look motivated because they're not motivated for what I want them to be motivated for, and that might actually be an accurate perception. But for what is that person most motivated? So in MI, we always ask, for what are you most motivated? We're always looking for the positive answer rather than what's missing. We're looking for the treasure hunt rather than the deficit hunt. Mm-hmm. What's present rather than what's absent. So we never in MI define or label people by what's missing. We always talk about people by what's present and what's strong and what's true. And even qualities that don't seem helpful on the surface are functional in some way. What function does that behavior, what function does that strength, what function does that value serve for that person? For example, one woman in our residential treatment program had been had been grappling herself, experiencing housing instability for much of her life. And she came into treatment with such a low level of hygiene that no one would spend time with her. And she all of a sudden found that a very painful thing because she saw other people getting together and sitting down and having dinner, and she wanted to be part of that, and no one would have anything to do with her. And the more she was confronted about what was wrong with her, the worse the problem got. Until we finally asked to talk with her about her most important values. And it probably doesn't surprise you to learn that safety was her single most important value. And what had kept her safe in a living on the street situation was a low level of hygiene so she wouldn't be victimized, so she could feel safe and she could get some sleep. And all of a sudden, now she's living with others, and the same strategy that had been so effective now doesn't work. In fact, it's causing her pain. So the more she was challenged about what was wrong with her, the more she clung to that. So once we said, what are some other ways we can help you cultivate a sense of safety, since that's the thing for which you are most motivated, that would allow you to set aside things that used to be okay for you and now are causing you pain. She learned, we had some work, we had classes around interpersonal effectiveness and how to set boundaries with people and how to decide who to trust and how to say no to people. Those turned out to be really useful skills for her, which she had had absolutely no use for early in her life. But now those things allowed her to maintain that sense of safety so that she could take care of the other things that were causing her pain. Just a thought. So, and similarly, we never ask what's wrong with you or what's the matter with you. We always ask what matters to you. Those are two really different levels of inquiry. What's the matter with you versus what matters to you. And if you ask what matters to you, you can always find the person's source of motivation.
That's great. That's really wonderful. I would like to do a time check. I don't know what time it is. I didn't bring we have 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay. Looks like we have a question in the back there, and then another one. Okay.
Morning, everyone.
Can you get closer to the mic?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Morning. So, given that everybody's in here for social services, you see a volume of people, is there any point where it's like this person just can't get help, like won't allow to be helped? They may come in, but then it's like you're wasting time over and over again. You can sit with a person for an hour or two, but then you got 40 other people to see. At what point do you have to determine, it's like, okay, just come back until you're ready, but they just keep coming back?
So, I guess this is where I was, because I was even thinking about what the last question, because there's always probably sometimes on the road to self-sufficiency, there's probably a lot of things that an individual may have to work on in order to get there. So I think it's just a matter of, again, starting, I call it like baby steps, and maybe you just have to do, like address one issue at a time. And it's a matter of being, again, I think persistent and consistent without being like overbearing, but just having to continue. I think you just have to kind of be that person's cheerleader, sounding board, and just continue to be with them till you find what matters to them, so that you can get them to be engaged with whatever the barrier that they're trying to overcome or what they're trying to achieve. I think there will always be someone that will be like, oh, they're not ready or they're not going to do it. But if you approach this from that you're there to help them and to be there for them, it's just a matter of you have to just be persistent, just keep going back and being with them, and then finding out at what point you start. And I think once you get one success, even if it's a baby step achieved, that'll open the door to get to the next level. And I know, like I said, that, especially when you're working with social services, that there may be some people that will always, again, say like, oh, well, they'll never get there. And I think it's just a matter of staying there until they're ready, and just keep being open to the different, options or whatever, providing different options until you can find one that will motivate them or engages them and gets them ready. So that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, thank you. And I just have a thought about that. And readiness is really a continuum. And a person might not be ready yet for the whole apple, but for what bite are they ready now? And often just honoring a person's autonomy, knowing, I want you to be ready for the whole apple right now, right? And that's okay. We can recognize that urge that we have for others, and it usually comes from a pretty good place. We're really not trying to hurt people. We're really trying to help people. We really want the best for people. And that may not be what they want quite yet. And so honoring and respecting their autonomy to decide for themselves when is the right time and what are they most ready for right now often actually raises readiness, because they realize they don't have to push back against us. We're not there to pressure. This might not be the right time for you. It may be somewhere down the road that it's a better time for you. I couldn't decide for you. I'm here to help you when you're ready, but only you can decide how much you want me to be part of that right now. And just honoring that, and people will decide for themselves. At minimum, even if they walk away from you right then, they will walk away having felt respected, and the door remains open for them. And if I pressure and I don't show respect, that door closes, and that person may never walk back through that again. The person who carried the card around in her wallet for 7 years wasn't ready yet. And she thought about it every single day until she decided that was the time to walk in. And we don't know that. We don't know when that magic time is for others.
Thank you. So we are at time. I apologize. I'm sure many of you had other questions. We are going to take a break, 15 minutes. We have a tight schedule. We have a lot to do. So stretch your legs, walk around a little bit. And there's restrooms on either end of the building. And we'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Thank you.